A distinguishing mark of the accountancy profession is its acceptance of the responsibility to act in the public interests. Thus, a professional accountant's responsibility is not exclusively to satisfy the needs of a client or employer. To act in the public interests, a professional accountant shall observe and comply with this code, which provides a conceptual framework to identify threats to compliance with the fundamental principles, evaluate significance of identified threats, apply safeguards to eliminate threats or reduce them at an acceptable level. Safeguards are necessary when the professional accountant determines that the threats are not at acceptable level and that compliance with the fundamental principles is not compromised. Professional judgment is needed in applying this framework. A professional accountant shall apply the fundamental principles. First, integrity, which means being straightforward and honest in all profession and business. Second, objectivity, which does not allow bias, conflict of interest, undue influence of others to override professional or business judgments. Third, professional competence and due care. It maintains professional knowledge and skill at the level required and acts diligently in accordance with technical and professional standards. Fourth, confidentiality. It respects confidentiality of information and not disclose such to third parties without proper and specific authority unless there is legal right. Fifth, professional behavior. To comply with relevant laws and regulations and avoid acts that discredit profession. Now let's proceed to conceptual framework approach. When professional accountant encounters unusual circumstances in which would result to disproportionate outcome, he should consult with a member body or relevant regulator. It is inevitable that both in business and in public profession, professional accountants encounter threats. So what are threats? Threats may be created by a broad range of relationship and circumstances that could compromise or perceive to compromise compliance with fundamental principles. Categories of threats. First, self-interest threat. It is a threat that a financial or other interest will inappropriately influence professional accountants' judgment or behavior. Example, when a firm having undue dependence on total fees from client. Second, self-review threat. It is when a professional accountant will not appropriately evaluate results of a previous judgment or activity or service. Example, a member of assurance team being or having recently been a director or officer of the client. Next, advocacy threat. It is a threat of promoting clients or employer's position that objectivity is compromised. Example, when a firm promotes shares on audit clients' behalf. Then, familiarity threat. When due to a long or close relationship with a client or employer, professional accountant will be too sympathetic to their interests or too accepting at their work. Example, professional accountant accepting gifts or preferential treatment from client. Last, intimidation threat. It involves deterring from acting objectively because of actual or perceived pressures, including attempts to exercise undue influence. Example of this is when a firm is being threatened with dismissal from client. In the existence of these threats, there are available safeguards that may eliminate threats or reduce them at acceptable level. These fall into two categories. First, safeguard created by profession, legislation, or regulation. It includes professional standards, corporate governance, and others. Second, safeguards in work environment. These involve disciplinary mechanisms to promote compliance, policies and procedures to implement and monitor quality engagements. Now let's go to conflict of interest. It creates a threat to objectivity and other fundamental principles. This happens when professional accountant undertakes a professional activity for two or more parties whose interests are in conflict, or when professional accountant himself has a conflict of interest with other parties related to a particular matter. Ethical conflicts resolution. There are relevant factors to resolution process. Here are some to be considered. Relevant facts, ethical issues involved, fundamental principles related to the matter in question, establish internal procedures, alternative courses of action. Professional accountant having considered the first shall determine appropriate course of action. If remains unsolved, professional accountant may wish to consult with those charged with governance and document the substance of the issue, details of discussion held, and decision made. Appropriate safeguards available are restructuring or segregating certain possibilities and duties, obtaining appropriate oversight, withdrawing from decision-making process, and consulting with third parties. So to sum up all professional accountants are expected to exercise independence, which comprises independence of mind and independence of appearance. First, what is independence of mind? It permits the expression of a conclusion without being affected by influences that compromise professional judgment. Now, what is independence and appearance on the other hand? This pertains to avoidance of facts and circumstances significant that the first fundamental principle has been compromised. Thank you!